As another NBA season comes to a close, it has everyone reevaluating the NBA landscape and where certain players rank. As subjective as it is, these conversations are just commonplace in our community, and as I do every single year, it is time for me to do my own top 50 list. Now I know, I can't please everyone, and that's okay. It's my list. Hope y'all enjoy the show, but just a couple of disclaimers before we start. Number one, I can't rank Klay Thompson. This list is assuming everyone is fully healthy, but I just can't rank Klay Thompson when I haven't seen him for 2 straight seasons. I just can't. Also, I highly encourage y'all to focus more on the tiers players belong in rather than the actual order itself, because I understand that a lot of these spots are extremely debatable. Also, just keep in mind, if there are 2 players and one is at the end of a tier and another is at the beginning of another, that probably still means they're interchangeable even if I have them in 2 different tiers. But with that being said, let's start it off, man. Let's start it off 50 through 41. At number 50, we have Fred VanVleet. 49, Michael Porter Jr. 48, Miles Turner. 47, Ben Simmons. 46, Pascal Siakam. 45, Tobias Harris. 44, Draymond Green. 43, CJ McCollum. 42, Malcolm Brogdon. And 41, DeMar DeRozan. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to this part of the list, and that is Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is 47 on my list. Ben Simmons just last year was still in conversations for being a top 20 player in the league because of his impact on a lot of areas when it comes to basketball. But let's just stop, man. Let's just stop. Enough is enough. While yes, when you analyze his game, you can really see that his only weakness is shooting. But every single year, it has become the downfall of his team. To say that Ben Simmons' only weakness is shooting is really undermining the importance of shooting / scoring the basketball and what that means for the limitations of the lineups and scenarios Ben Simmons can succeed in. So let's just come to the reality that Ben Simmons was just never as good as we thought he was. And if I am proven wrong in the next year or two, then I will say I am wrong, but until then, Ben Simmons to me is at 47. But anyways, let's talk about the other notable names in this part of the list. Michael Porter Jr. cracks the top 50 for the first time after a season where he averaged 19 points and 7 rebounds, while shooting 54% from the field and 45% from 3, while his production didn't slip too bad in the playoffs as well. CJ McCollum is a player that moved down a decent amount to me, as his deficiencies as a defender just keep on getting more and more detrimental to his team's success. Malcolm Brogdon also finds himself in the top 50 after a season where he averaged 21, 6, and 5 on some really good shooting splits. Now let's move on to 40 to 31. At number 40, we have De'Aaron Fox. 39, LaMelo Ball. 38, Kyle Lowry. 37, Brandon Ingram. 36, Nikola Vucevic. 35, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 34, John Morant. 33, Domantas Sabonis. 32, Julius Randle, and 31, Russell Westbrook. Call me crazy, man, but I am really high on LaMelo Ball. Unfortunately, the Charlotte Hornets were not able to make the playoffs last year, primarily due to LaMelo Ball suffering an injury in the middle of the season, but what LaMelo showed us after he was given the keys as a starter was phenomenal. To give y'all some perspective, in that stretch, LaMelo Ball averaged roughly 20 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and had shooting splits of 46% from the field, 43% from 3, and 81% from the line. Also, comparing it to my list in November, John Moran climbed up a lot on my list as well, primarily due to what he showed in the playoffs. If you look at John Moran's regular season, you can actually make a case that he played worse than his rookie year, but I just can't ignore what he did in the playoffs. Against one of the best defenses in the league and against a team with the best regular season record, John Moran in the first round averaged 30 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds on 49% shooting from the field, and that's just insane. Also, comparing it to my list in November, Russell Westbrook moved down a decent amount as well, as before he was in the top 20 and now he is at 31, and that's primarily due to the fact that, in my opinion, he had a very up and down season in Washington, and for the most part, when you look at the season overall, he just wasn't that good, even compared to his last season in Houston. Kyle Lowry is a player that actually moved down a lot to me, but to be completely honest, Kyle Lowry moving down this much is more so a matter of other players just getting better than it is a knock on Kyle Lowry. And I guess I don't want to spoil the next 10 too much, but this does mark the end of the first tier of this list, or last tier, depending on how you look at it. I feel like this tier consists of players who are undoubtedly good star level players in the league, however either have glaring weaknesses in their game, are more built to be third options on contending teams, or just haven't proven enough to move higher on this list. Now let's move on to the top 30. At 30, we have Jamal Murray, 29, Rudy Gobert, 28, Bam Adebayo, 27, Drew Holiday, 26, Deandre Ayton, 25, Jaylen Brown, 24, Chris Middleton, 23, Zion Williamson, 22, Karl Anthony Towns, and 21, Bradley Beal. This is where the extremely talented players who haven't won much meets the players who have proven to be consistent second options on some really good playoff teams. After the championship run they just had, I just had to put some more respect on Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. These are players that may not have the same name value of some other players in even this part of the list, but they literally just proved to me that they can at the very least, be a second or third option on a championship caliber team and actually were that on a championship winning team. As far as my DeAndre Ayton placement, you know, honestly, that could bite me later down the line as a recency bias pick, but I truly do believe that DeAndre Ayton's ability to be a really effective pick and roll big while having a scoring repertoire that's just not putbacks and lay-ins at the efficiency he's doing it as well is a separator to me between the likes of a Rudy Gobert or a Bam Adebayo. And I haven't even talked about his defensive capabilities as well. Also, despite Jaylen Brown being 4 spots away from players like Devin Booker, Trey Young, and Bradley Beal, I do believe that the order I decided to go with makes it seem like he's not, but I truly do believe he is in that class of players. And now we get into the top 20. At number 20, we have Trey Young, 19, Devin Booker, 18, Zach Levine, 17, Jimmy Butler, 16, Chris Paul, 15, Kyrie Irving, 14, Paul George, 13, Donovan Mitchell, 12, Jason Tatum, and 11, Damian Lillard. So let's talk about it. Devin Booker and Trey Young moved up tremendously to me after the playoff runs that they just had. We already knew that they were really talented players and they had the numbers to back it up, but for them to go out there in the playoffs and be pivotal parts to some really deep playoff runs was all the validation I needed for me to move them up this high. And a guy that I am willingly jumping the gun on, and I'll die on this hill until I'm proven otherwise, is Zach Levine, and how I believe Zach Levine is just as good as these guys despite not winning as much as them last year. Let me just remind you guys that Zach Levine just came off a year where he averaged 27, 5, and 5 on insane 51, 42, 85 splits. In terms of scoring the basketball, those are Kevin Durant, Steph Curry-esque splits. Those are insane. But also as a community, if we were able to turn our heads more on the empty stats moniker that were given to Trey Young and Devin Booker because they were able to win when given the right pieces, I don't know why we can't also make that same leap for Zach Levine and why we have to wait until he's put in that position instead of just making that claim right now. Donovan Mitchell rose a significant amount on my list as well. Number one, don't ever tell me Rudy Gobert is the best player on the Jazz. Just stop. It's Donovan Mitchell's team. I don't know why we've been overthinking it too much. It's Donovan Mitchell's team. Jimmy Butler to me moved down a decent amount too after having a horrendous playoff series against the Bucks in the first round this year. He's still a great player. I'm not gonna say he's trash or anything like that, but I do think in retrospect we did overrate him a little bit after the 2020 playoffs. It is what it is. It is what it is. But now let's get into my top 10, man. Let's get into my top 10. At number 10, we have Anthony Davis. Number 9, Joel Embiid. Number 8, James Harden. Number 7, Nikola Jokic. Number 6, Luka Doncic. Number 5, Stephen Curry. Number 4, LeBron James. Number 3, Kawhi Leonard. Number 2, Kevin Durant. And number 1, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Here we are, man, my top 10 players in the league, and honestly my full top 50 list is right in front of your eyes, assuming everyone is healthy aside from Klay Thompson, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video. Look, I just want to say this. I think in all of my years watching the NBA and even studying the NBA landscape before, I started watching the NBA, I don't think the gap between the 10th best player in the league and the best player in the league has ever been this small. Let me just remind you guys that Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, who I have at 7 and 9, were the 2 prime candidates for the MVP this year, with Jokic actually winning it. James Harden at some point this year was also in MVP conversations and was considered the best player on the Nets at some point, with KD playing on the same team. Anthony Davis, the last time we saw him fully healthy, was an arguable finals MVP and averaged 28 and 10 throughout that whole playoff run on 57, 38, 83 splits. These are the type of players we have at the back end of this top 10, and I would like to think that if I ask y'all feedback on this top 10, that a majority of y'all would actually agree with the general order of this list. And the fact that Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, and James Harden are more so in the 5 to 10 range than they are in the actual top 5. Now, I will say a big part of this order is primarily given the benefit of the doubt to what transpired just this year in the playoffs. But I'm telling you right now, these guys are all really close in my opinion. The only real distinction I made between tier 1 and tier 2 is that I believe the players in tier 1 actually have a legitimate argument for being the best player in the world, while the players in tier 2 have the talent to do so, but just don't really have an argument right now. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, because for the last 4 or 5 years, the conversation for the best player in the world has primarily been LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, and Kawhi Leonard. And right now, as you can see on your screen, I have one Giannis Antetokounmpo as the best player in the world. Look, if you walked up to me and said KD's better or Kawhi's better, I would not give you that much pushback. I just won't. I'd give a little bit more pushback if you came up to me and said LeBron and Steph are better right now. But even then, I see it. But if you ask me what Giannis needed to do to prove that he is the best player in the world, he did it. Yes, were there circumstances that may have aided him to get to the finals? Yes. But based off of the path he was given, the circumstances he was dealt with, he performed just as well as you can ask, if not more. Before we talk about the playoffs, let's talk about his regular season, because honestly, it's just been swept under the rug because he won the MVP the last 2 years and there was a lot of voter fatigue. But in the regular season, Giannis averaged 28 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists while shooting 57% from the field, playing all defensive first team caliber defense, and led the Bucks to the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. And then he comes into the playoffs and elevates his performance from that already insane regular season, as he averaged 30 points, a playoff leading 13 rebounds a game, accompanied by 5 assists, while again shooting 57% from the field throughout that whole run, and more specifically in the NBA Finals against a Phoenix Suns team who in the regular season had a record on pace to win 58 games and had the 3rd best defense in the playoffs and was just on a roll going into the finals. Giannis against that team in the finals averaged 35, 13, and 5 on 62% shooting from the field, played all-time great defense, came back from a 2-0 deficit, and dropped 50 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks in the closeout game. And mind you, I don't want this to get swept under the rug, but this is in a season where he chose to stay in Milwaukee instead of attempting to form a super team like KD, Kawhi, LeBron, and Steph have done at some point in their career. That is why Giannis, to me, as of July 22, 2021, is the best player in the NBA. But again, that can easily change next year. That can easily change. So there you have it. This is my top 50 list. Go crazy in the comment section, man. Go crazy. If anything, I encourage y'all to go crazy in the comment section. Get my engagement up. But with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'm out. Peace.